Hey, everybody, it's Heather, and welcome back to the podcast. I am excited because it is my podcast interview season, which means I get to meet awesome people who are really making a difference in our world. There's nothing like talking to a fellow coach, like my friend Erica Woolwine, who is here with us today to talk to us about her Primal Health Coach passion. Her bio is: she coaches midlife moms to get control of their eating habits, lose weight, gain more energy, get better sleep, and add some play into their lives. Y'all, I need some play in my life. That's awesome. She is a certified level 2 Primal coach. She offers coaching programs for women one-on-one, groups, and a self-paced course. So you get it all. She had health issues ranging from gut issues, fatigue, back pain, and migraines that led her down a path discovering the connection with what we eat, our lifestyle, our sleep, and how it all affects our lives. Erica, I am so excited to have you here with us today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Heather. Yes, I'm excited to talk to all your listeners.
So I know that you specialize in several areas like weight loss support, sleep optimization, which I can't wait to talk to you about, kicking cravings to the curb. So I imagine sugar is going to come up in this conversation, incorporating fitness, so moving our bodies. And the big one is, helping working moms with self-care and compassion for their overall health. So I am looking forward to hearing all about what you have to tell us today. But first, since you're joining me here on, You Can Feel Good Even When Life Doesn't podcast, tell me about your take on feeling good from your specialized point of view, from your expertise.
Yeah, well, I think, feeling good, where we feel good with our energy and how we interact with our lives. And I didn't realize how good I could feel until I had made some changes. So when I was down that path of where, let's say, my stomach hurt and I was feeling fatigue and brain fog, especially after being like a new mom, and people said, oh, that's just mommy brain. That's just how it is. Or people, will say, oh, you're just getting older. And so I didn't realize how good I could feel until I really worked on handling my stress, getting better sleep, and taking out grains and a lot of industrial seed oils. And then I just felt this brain fog lift. And then I felt this focus and this clearness come in. And I realized, like, wow, I can feel really good. And that level had really changed for me. And that really helped inspire me to help other women, usually, to just realize that they can feel a lot better than they think they can.
Right. And the one thing I've noticed is there's this thing I've been studying, it's called hedonic adaptation. Have you ever heard of it?
I haven't, no.
Okay, so hedonic adaptation is this thing where we as humans get used to things very quickly. So we have a baseline of happy. And when no matter what happens, whether it gets really bad or it gets really good, it'll eventually always come back to our baseline. So what that means is if we are dealing with pain or discomfort and we've dealt with it for a long period of time, hedonic adaptation has taught us to manage that as our baseline. So we are comfortable with our discomfort. I was researching it for a recent podcast, and I was stunned at, wow, I saw that in myself. Wow. In my, earlier years where physically I wasn't myself, the brain fog, the fatigue, the moodiness, kind of bleak outlook, very unlike me. And I couldn't figure out what was going on. And it was tied absolutely to my digestion, which we know is a big part of our health. But hedonic adaptation is that thing that really helps us it almost allows us to kind of go back to what we were, even if it wasn't as good as we want to be, but we're comfortable with it. So I bring that up because that's often where you'll find people have a resistance to trying something new, right? Or taking that risk because I'm just comfortable with it. I'm good with it. It's what it is, right? But we're saying, however many times we can say it through your coaching, my coaching, podcasts, everywhere, is you can feel good. There are things that you can do today begin starting to do today to help yourself feel good, right?
Yeah, definitely. And that's good to hear like that explanation. I've heard it referred to as like your thermometer,
Mm-hmm.
right? When it's like the room is 72 and
Yep.
then people start to make changes and then yeah. So that's interesting. Thank you for teaching something new.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah.
It's a really, really cool little thing. Dr. Lori Santos, she has a podcast called The Happiness Lab, and she is a researcher, and she has been researching happiness for like 10, 15 years. And she introduced hedonic adaptation. And I was just like, this is the coolest thing ever. So if you Google it, y'all can Google it, and you're going to see all the things because they have images and visuals that are really helpful to understand it. But oftentimes hedonic adaptation is what it can both be our enemy and our best friend when we understand it, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we understand it, that the worst days won't always be the worst and the happiest days won't always be the happiest. And that we can adjust our baseline.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you could condense your particular expertise into a couple of sentences, what would those sentences be?
I would say it's just that I help midlife moms to just feel energy and get rid of that weight that's been holding them back, both like emotionally and physically, so that they can feel confident and joy.
Oh, that's great. I vote for confidence and joy.
Mm-hmm.
I like both of those, right?
Yeah.
And that it's possible. And that midlife doesn't have to be kind of the proverbial end of whatever, don't you think our society puts a lot of that around midlife?
Definitely. Yeah. And I hear people say, oh, well, I'm in my 40s, so it doesn't matter. I'm not going to wear shorts anymore. I'm not going to wear a bathing suit, or it's just my age. And I think, no, like you could potentially have half another life ahead of you and enjoy your life and wear the shorts and go out to the beach and just, embrace life and have fun with it. And that confidence. And I didn't realize as much until I started working with my clients that how much their weight is and their perception of it was really holding them back of doing things with their kids, or just, let's say like a speaking engagement, or just feeling like sexy with their husband. Right. And it was holding them back from that. And so it just keeps, motivating me to get out there and really help women to feel that confidence, whatever that looks like for them.
Yes. And, you shared something in an earlier talk that we had about confidence being this big piece. It's like a big rock, don't you think? It's if you were to drill down between all the layers of the things, right? Do you think that confidence and insecurity, that vulnerability, that belief, that limiting belief that I can't do it, I don't feel like I'm able to. So do you think at the root it's a lack of confidence or trust in themselves to be able to overcome?
Yeah, definitely. It's like, well, how do I get started? Maybe it feels like such a daunting task that they know they want to feel better, but like, well, how do I do that? Well, I can't be like such and such and such. I think there's also that level of social media where maybe they see friends online and they, that comparison piece, and then think, oh, forget it. I'm just gonna, they just feel, like you said, so daunted with the idea of making changes, feeling like it has to be this big thing when it can really be small changes along the way.
Yes. And you and I certainly both subscribe to the small changes. I think most coaches do, right? These big lofty goals sound great on New Year's Day. Typically that's when you find it, right? New Year's Day, everybody's making these big goals. And about 2 weeks in, things aren't going so great. And because we cannot take on that much change in one moment. That a human being cannot make those large changes because it's too much. You're going from like here to like here, and really you've got to do the little tiny stair steps. And sometimes you got to go up a couple stairs of change and then back down the steps because you've pushed too far and maybe you got burnt out or you hit a failure and you think it's over. Nope, you just restart again. But when it's smaller, the failures don't feel as big, don't you think?
Yeah, I agree. Where it's like, well, instead of I'm going for a run every single day for an hour, that just means it's a daunting task where it's like, just put on your tennis shoes today. Put on your tennis shoes and then see what happens. And like, once the tennis shoes are on, okay, well, maybe I will go outside to go on a walk. Well, if I just go to the stop sign, oh, I can do that. Once I'm out of the stop sign, now you start to feel that natural energy because you're out walking, and then it's like, oh, I'll just keep going. I'm enjoying this. So like you said, just like little steps along the way.
Those little steps. Yeah. One of the things I do with my clients is a daily plan. And one part of the daily plan is movement, where I have little writing prompts where it's just simply, when I'm feeling tired and I don't feel like moving my body, I will. And one of them for me has always been, I will put on my tennis shoes.
Oh, right? Yeah.
Or I will go outside. Or I will change my clothes. I get out of my work clothes, I'll put on a pair of shorts or something to change that mindset. But I think that is so critical to doing these little changes. So I just love that root concept of belief in yourself, trusting yourself that you can make change, that we are able to change and evolve and continue to grow as human beings in midlife and beyond. And we're not done yet. We have things to do. And, frankly, the latter half of my life has been more awesome than the early, right? There are different seasons of life for sure. Okay.
Definitely.
So we kind of touched on this already, but I just wanted to hear you share what your why is and kind of extrapolate a little bit more what brought you to this coaching career. And just a little bit about your story and maybe about your family.
Yeah. So when I was kind of like I touched on before, just, this young mom with the stomach pain and headaches and back pain and then that like loss of focus, the doctor would just say, oh, it's part of being a young mom. Oh, it's just stress, just this or that. And, another prescription, and where they were helpful, this or that, but there was nothing ever told to me about or asked about my diet. How is my stress? How is my sleep? And, even when I'd say, would you like me to talk about like what I'm eating, especially with like the stomach pain, they'd say, no, that's okay. That's fine. And, so then it led me on this path to self-discovery, doing a lot of research, finding some, naturopathic doctors, just people out there who would help me get to the root cause of it. And what I found was that the gluten I was eating was affecting my gut. The sugar I was completely addicted to was affecting me. Drinking out with friends at night, like I said, the lack of sleep because I was always feeling that stress because I wasn't giving myself enough time in the morning, kind of waking up in this like flight or fight. I burned through my cortisol. I had adrenal fatigue. And so I just, little by little, like would learn something. I found some friends that were eating in a way that when they told me about the benefits, I thought, okay, sign me up for that. So, I had a friend who said, I'm going grain-free after reading a book and sugar-free. And I was like, whoa, okay, that's a lot.
Right.
And so she said, I'll do a challenge with you, 30 days of just whole food eating, no alcohol, water, and then let's do this together. And so when I jumped on that journey, I didn't realize how much sugar is in everything and how used I was to it. Like I'd have salad dressing and it had sugar in it. And then I had to get used to like a different kind of salad dressing or like the sugar in my coffee or the sugar in my ketchup or, always wanting a sweet. And then I learned that it was really affecting my blood sugar. So so I would wake up just like feeling so hangry and I had to eat. My blood sugar would go up and down all day long. And when I did this with her, just having that support of a friend, I started feeling so much better by the end of those 30 days. And I had to lean on her a few times, like, oh, I just want to give in, and she's like, no, keep going. And it just coming back to like our ancestral health with eating real foods, things that our body recognizes. And I felt so much better. My stomach pain went away, my back pain went away, my headaches decreased. Those cravings that I used to have went away. And I just couldn't believe the change that I was having in my body and my mind and my energy and my mood. And I said, wow, like this is really something. And this is how we're supposed to live. So as as you dive deeper into one thing, you learn more, and then you want to learn more, and you realize how much you really don't know. And so
Right.
then I thought, I want to share this with others. I want other people to really feel this good as I do. And so, yeah, I looked into becoming a health coach. And yeah, that led me down the Primal health coach path. And I just keep wanting to share all these amazing things that I'm learning, both like with the research and the way that, things I'm doing personally. It also had me change the things I was cooking for my family. So I used to have that idea, back from the 80s that like fat is bad and, fat will make you fat. And it's like, no, that's not true. Like, there's a reason our grandparents used to use whole butter from cows that ate grass. And so I started roasting vegetables and putting butter on things and making just good, tasty meat. And so then my kids' eating habits changed. So it really became like the whole family,
Wow.
and realizing, with sugar with them as well. So it's been a great transformation.
That's inspiring, honestly. There's nothing quite like feeling it yourself, and then you realize, okay, I want to share this, right? I want to share this as much as I can, because we don't realize what we put in our bodies, and we take it for granted. And especially you get to a certain age, your body can handle that when you're younger, but you start getting to middle age and your body's like, I can't handle this anymore. And you start to experience all these symptoms as you described, and that there is a way out. And whole food eating, I have been plant-based for the most part, I would say, for the past 6 months, because of my digestive stuff. My stress level was really high. And so I said, I knew what to do, but I had slidden a little bit off the, right? You kind of slide back. It's easy. It happens. But recognizing it, I was like, I know exactly what to do. And as soon as I kind of incorporated that plant-based diet, and I was able to start incorporating fish and lean meats, and of course, all organic, all farm-raised meat. I'm very, very particular about my meats. And guys, it makes a difference.
It does.
You will notice immediately. I mean, I would say within about a month or two of eating really good farm-raised meat, there's grass-fed beef. I mean, you'll notice, don't you think, Erica?
Definitely. Yeah. You'll notice the taste and how you feel. And you think about what those cows were eating before you had, and if they're, or if they're in tiny pens, and then that stress that they're feeling, and then you are eating those stress hormones that they were feeling, before they went off to market. Yeah. So it makes a big difference.
Yeah. I mean, and then I think about the animals too, so I'm a huge environmentalist, and I think about the animals, and I understand. Yeah. So animals, we live on this planet, we can eat animals, and that's great. But how we care for these animals, and how they live their lives before we eat them, I think matters, and it matters a great deal to me. Okay. So let's go ahead and start talking about this health and nutrition. So what do you think are the common myths around health, diet, nutrition, exercise?
Yeah, I think one is people think, I don't have the money, I don't have the time, I don't have it's too hard, it's too expensive. Where do I start? I think, back to that, like I mentioned before, like the fat-free,
right.
Like I think we're still part of that. We're afraid of fat. We're also afraid of salt. So there's really healthy salts out there.
Right. There are. Oh my gosh. Guys, y'all can find some healthy salts. Like I get this salt from like Central America, and it is, they make their own salt, and it is like not like your Morton salt in a container at all.
Wow. Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Our bodies were meant to have all that. Our ancestors used to preserve food, right? And they would use those healthy salts. And, there's a difference between like sodium in the lean cuisines I used to eat. I think, oh gosh, that was like, oh, it's fat free, it's convenient, it's only 200 calories. And then an hour later, I'd be starving.
Of course.
I was like, oh, but I only had 200 calories. So I think there's a lot of that we, just like you said, those myths and things. So helping to educate people about like, no, healthy salt, like the one you mentioned, or, from other places is important. And then eating those healthy fats will not make us fat. and just, and then also that you are able to create the time. And there's ways that if you're eating really healthy, you're saving money in other ways. Maybe you have less trips to the doctor because you're feeling so good, or you're spending less money on medication, or, you're finding that high quality meat, but you're not spending money on processed foods. So there's all these ways to look at that there are ways that you can, within everybody's budget or everybody's time that they have.
Right. Yeah. And I think the big one with the myths is certainly, I don't have enough time. So I'm a big Peloton user. My podcast audience knows this. You see my Peloton back, and, I love my Peloton bike. And I have friends of mine who were like, I really, I want a Peloton, but I just can't afford it. And I'm like, well, can you afford $60 a month? 0% interest? And they're like, and I'm like, yeah. Did you know your insurance will pay for the annual membership for Peloton? And they go, oh, right. And then I'm like, so if you can afford it, and I'll be here with you, I'll support you, right? I'll help you. I mean, whatever you need, I'll be there. And it's, the struggle is I think it's a psychological mindset. So don't you think sometimes it's those limiting beliefs of I can't, like we just talked about, it's too hard. They don't believe in themselves. They don't believe that they can actually make themselves get on the bike or put on the tennis shoes, because maybe the goal looks so big in their head. It might as well be a giant mountain that they've got to scale all alone, and they'll never do it. And so they just might as well turn on Netflix and eat a bag of chips. Yeah. You know what I mean? So
yep, definitely.
Because that's what our brain does, right? Our brain just wants us to survive. So if our brain feels like, hey, this is scary and you think it's really bad, then we'll just sit here. We'll just sit here and stay alive. That's what your brain will do, guys. Okay.
Yep. Just wants to keep us safe, what the brain thinks safe looks like. And then that, like you said, that inner villain voice comes in and just sit down, watch Netflix. It's fine. And
not today.
Yeah.
Not today. We'll do it tomorrow. That's what your brain will say. We'll do it tomorrow. Right.
Yes.
So our brain can be our friend or our enemy. Right. And so our brain doesn't tell us what to do. We tell our brain what to do, and recognize that limiting beliefs are a big part of myths. Okay. Of what we think is hard about something or difficult. And understanding that handling hard is just part of being a human on this planet. Things will always be hard. But when we figure out ways to build our confidence, when we realize I can handle hard, I can do hard things. And we feel empowered and confident because of it. So I just think that's awesome. So what are the key essentials to a well-rounded health and vitality?
I think number one, I would say, and especially for moms, and this is why I really focus on moms, is because we tend to put everybody else's needs first. And it's like when everybody else is taken care of, then I'll take some time for myself. And I was in that too, when I woke up when the kids woke up, and I was, like I mentioned before, in that flight or fight. And so a habit that I changed was something called the Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. And it was waking up an hour before the kids woke up. So wake up at 5 a.m. And before, again, limiting belief, I'm not a morning person. Right? That was the limiting belief I had. And again, a friend really encouraged me and kind of helped me through. And, I just set my alarm 30 minutes ahead of time, put my alarm away from my bed, which is good anyway, which we'll talk to about that with sleep. And then, bumping it up 15 minutes. And so from 5 to 6 is my time. So it's before the whole house wakes up, and I do journaling and meditation and reading and exercise, and I have affirmations and visualization. And so when I made that huge switch, then it just put me in such a better place as I started my day. And so it was like, okay, I'm ready to start this day. I have my water and all those good things. And so then from there, I think planning ahead, having like that healthy breakfast, making, what am I going to have for lunch? So for me, I go off to work. So I, pack my healthy lunch, and then just those, habits. I also feel like when people go outside in sunrise, it really helps their bodies to wake up with that natural sunlight. Midday, if you can get outside and have that sunlight. And then in the afternoon, having like a walk after dinner. And just finding ways for our bodies to move throughout the day. You know, our bodies were meant to move. They weren't meant to sit behind a computer for hours and hours.
Right.
So if any of your listeners or people that, you know, they have to work while they're sitting down, giving themselves like that every hour, get up, move around, have some water, you know, even do like a quick 5-minute workout or lifting something heavy.
Right.
And then that evening time where you're turning down the lights, you're having an enjoyable meal with those around you that you love. You know, meals were social events, you know, with our
Right.
ancestors. They were meant to bring people together. They weren't meant to be quick and on the go and in their car, microwaved, and how fast can we eat it? And I get that's part of our life. You know, I have kids in sports, and so I get the, like you said,
Sure.
face, you're just rushing around,
Right.
you know, but you know, find those times that maybe, you know, this is a better time to have a calm meal. And so just building in those, you know, habits throughout the day. And, you know, maybe if that feels daunting, finding something like maybe just the dinner time. Like, okay, I'm going to focus on making a healthy dinner where I'm sitting down with my family. I'm going to
Right.
focus on that this week.
Right.
And then in just being conscious of what people eat. So looking at it is, am I eating this out of like habit? Am I eating this out of convenience? Am I eating this out just because it tastes so sweet? Am I stressed? So a lot of my clients are emotional eaters. They feel that stress. They go for the quick food that gives them that quick hope, you know, hit of dopamine. It relieves that stress for a little bit. And then, you know, they go on, but they find that then it causes other problems, right? Like then they're hungry a little later, or they feel that dip in energy, or they feel the guilt that then their brain starts to, you know, jump on that. Yeah, so then looking at like their evening and just having a nice calming time, turning down the lights. Again, our ancestors used to sit around the fire with the yellow lights.
Right.
They didn't have all these bright blue lights. The blue lights right are from the sun. So when we put on all these bright lights and all these screens, our brain thinks, oh my gosh, I guess it's time to be awake. Like it's not safe to go to sleep right now or start producing that melatonin because there's a lot of stimulus going on.
Right.
So, you know, turning on those yellow lights, and then, like I said, just going to bed at a good time that feels good. So we get a nice rejuvenating night of sleep.
Right. So it sounds like you start putting some kind of practical routines together, right?
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
you go at your life and almost small segments. I
Mm-hmm.
hear it as like little tiny segments of, okay, this is my morning time, then my meals. I'll be very intentional about planning my meals and then planning movement throughout the day, that segment of time. And guys, it does not have to be 2 hours. It can be 10 to 15 minutes of movement can make the biggest difference in your day. There is another book called Burnout, and I've talked about this with my audience before, and I mentioned it to you, Erica, last time we chatted. But literally, movement is the number one way that we can actually filter stress out of our body. Okay, so stress lives in our body. All right, it actually attaches to the cells in our organs and can cause serious health problems. And they are actually seeing some links with other types of diseases and diagnosis caused by stress. So movement is the easiest way to help stress move out of your body and helps you not hit something called burnout, which no one wants to ever experience, because burnout is not just a physical exhaustion, it is psychological, it is an emotional exhaustion. It's just really not a great place to be. So it sounds like you have it kind of, you almost take it into little small bites of one thing at a time. And rather than taking on this whole schedule change, choosing one thing. Choosing one or two things to incorporate and try.
Yeah, definitely. And you're right, because that we don't want people to feel overwhelmed with so many changes. I would say if there was one thing, just give yourself that time in the morning. I'd say, I mean, if you had to pick one, I would say that morning time of just you and quiet and something that gives you joy. And then I would say the caveat to that is don't jump on your phone, don't turn on the news, because that puts us back in that fight or fight. So something that's calming, enjoyable to you, even like you said, just 15 minutes and then the house wakes up, or then you've got to get ready for your day.
Right.
And then it just puts you in like that better, just state for the rest of your day.
Absolutely.
That from there. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And you did mention something earlier I wanted to to hook on was your cortisol. You talked about cortisol. So explain how cortisol functions with regard to fight and flight.
Yeah. So when we're in, goes back again to our ancestors, when there was that bear that was chasing us, right? And our cortisol would go and the adrenaline. And so you become very focused, and our bodies were only meant to have that for a short amount of time and then to be calm and relaxed. And then we're safe. Right. But with our modern day, right, it's like we've got our phones dinging and the news is telling us horrible things, and we've got appointments to make and running here and running there. And so our bodies naturally have this, up and down throughout the day of cortisol, which is why, you might feel a little sleepier at 3 o'clock, or you might feel, more energy at a certain time of day. That's that natural cortisol. But what happens is if we are continuously burning through that, right, we see like, the candle burning at both ends kind of expression, then our adrenal glands are something that has to kick in. And then when those go, we really don't have any more energy. It's like we've run out of that storage that we had. And so, because our bodies weren't meant to live like this all the time. Right. So looking at ways to just like calm even our breath, right? Looking at, if you notice like you're a shallow breather, calming that breath, calming your thoughts.
Yeah. Your body's going to start giving you signals. Yeah. The body is our greatest source of wisdom. I really believe that. We talk about the brain a lot. I talk about the brain a lot because it's mostly where, certainly it's where our mindset and our beliefs and some of the really great ways that we can use our brain to help ourselves, right? But it can also be a great limiter. And one of those is if we stay in the amygdala part of the brain, right? Which is the oldest part of the brain. And it is where the fight or flight is. It's also where body temperature is. It's also, so that's where you can often feel hot. If you start feeling hot and sweaty and clammy and your heart rate goes up, you're in that place where our body is going to shoot out all these different hormones to help our body calm down. And they're like the firefighters, right? But firefighters run out of water. And when it runs out of water, what's the body going to do? Well, the body starts using other things, the adrenal glands, to try to put out the fire. But the fire continues to rage. And rage, it does, over the past 30, 40 years, if you do the research, you'll start to see the connections with how disease has really impacted our community when we think about stress and burnout and people not really taking care of themselves as far as being able to have the boredom. It's just sitting there, not doing anything. Try on being bored for a while, your body needs the break, honestly. Right.
Yeah. It's funny. We just went through this. Actually, we went on a family trip to Yellowstone, and there isn't really any reception or Wi-Fi. And to watch all of us like, oh, no, you can't jump on your phone. There's no reception. Like, just all those things, and all of us, as old school, like you had to talk in the car.
That's right.
And then, just look around and see what you see.
You had to count the license plates or the signs, right?
Yeah. And it was so good for all of us just to completely disconnect.
That's right.
And just look out at nature, and and then you realize like, oh, there is that urgency that we say like, oh, is there a text or an email or this and that? There's, and like you said, just to like, nope.
Yes, absolutely. So you have a metaphor that you shared, and I want to say it because I think I want to capture this, guys, and then we're going to move on to an important subject called sleep and how important sleep is. But first, you wrote this down, and I just want to share it if you don't mind. Yeah. Just like a car, if we give our body the wrong kind of fuel, let it run too hot, don't take care of the tires, and expect it to run for thousands of miles, and then we're mad when the car breaks down. Right? So we all have been the person that hasn't maintained our cars, right? And then we have a consequence that's not great. Taking care of our bodies in these ways, in small little ways, really, really is going to help you in the long run. It's going to help you with avoid those kind of scary diagnoses that can come along, or even those smaller little health issues that come. We don't have to be sick when we're older. It's just, we don't. And we don't have to believe that, oh, well, when you get to a certain age, you take all this medicine and all these pills. That's not true. In some cases, you need the medicine. Oh my gosh, of course, if you have hypertension or other issues that are genetic. My husband has diabetes in his family, so he has to be very careful. But we don't always need to have that. So I just thought that metaphor was awesome, Erica. I love
good.
our metaphor. Okay. So let's go into talking about sleep. So why is sleep important to our health?
Yeah, great question. I mean, you think about as mammals, right? Sleep is one of the most vulnerable things that a mammal can do because it puts you at risk of a predator coming to get you. But you can see that all mammals sleep because it's so important to our health, our longevity, everything, you know, about our survival. Right. So we definitely need the sleep. And, you know, you're hearing people like, oh, I don't need sleep. I can run on 4 hours of sleep. It's like, no, you've just conditioned your life to get by on less sleep, but it really is so important. So, I mean, there's things like you can get better skin, better relationships. You know, we know when we've been really cranky and less patient with our loved ones. And, you know, you think relationships are so important. And so wouldn't we want to be the best for our loved ones around us? You know, looking at weight loss, that's something that's someone's goal, having a faster rate of fat loss and pain. So if you're someone who's experiencing a lot of pain, sleep can help with that. Fewer accidents. So as, you know, we get older, you know, we hear about we're more prone to accidents. Well, with more sleep, right, can keep with our coordination, less accidents, bones, getting out stronger bones, lower inflammation, right? Inflammation can cause so many different health problems in our body. And then we feel better.
Yes.
And so, right, we know when we've had that like horrible night of sleep and it just seems like we lag all day, and sometimes it can take like a day or 2 or 3 sometimes just to make up from that one bad night of sleep.
Right.
So yeah, so just feeling better overall.
Yeah. And sleep is one of those things that you can't make up for it the next day. Right. So sleep is like it's cumulative. And so you can't make up for it on the weekend. So it's really sleep hygiene every day. And taking little tweaks to improve it. So what are some hacks to helping us with our sleep?
Yeah, and so I have a sleep challenge coming up, so we'll dive more into this if you guys this is something that interests you. But one
we're going to have all the information, guys, for this sleep challenge that's happening. Yes, okay, so don't worry about it, but you'll be able to get all the information. It's going to be all in the notes. You'll get it.
Yeah. So the first thing is that light. So like I mentioned before, getting outside, especially certain times of day to help with those sleep hormones, blocking out light. So those little blue lights, you know, if you're notice around your room or in a hotel room, right, blocking all that out, doing things like wearing an eye mask, making your room nice and cool. So just setting up that sleep environment for success, doing things like not watching TV in your bed. So again, you know, if your brain associates like big stimulating shows or watching this crazy action-packed adventure, and then you're watching this in bed, and then you're like, okay, go to sleep, right? Your brain is like, what just happened? I just lived through bombings and people cars crashing, right? And guns firing.
I can't turn this off. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. So save your bedroom and your bed for sleep, time with your partner. You know, just that place of like rest and, you know, restoring, things like keeping the devices either out of your room or away. So that way, again, you're not like getting all those, you know, stimuli with social media. So maybe, you know, check your social media before you get into your bedroom, and then put your phone away. And then looking at, you know, calm, like I said, a calm night. So either you're reading before bed or having like you're writing down what you're grateful for, writing down your tasks before you get into bed so that your brain can work on any problems you might have. If you're someone that like you might be thinking about your thoughts in the middle of the night, just write them down before you go to bed, and then, you know, tell yourself it'll be there tomorrow. I'll think about it tomorrow. And then that's, you know, right now it's time for me to sleep. Ideally going to bed between, let's say like around 10 o'clock. Because you have that golden time where your body is doing so much that it needs to, that's like rest and repair. So if you've ever seen like kids, when you keep them up too late and we get that second wind, we watch them and they're zooming across the, the house, and you think, oh my gosh, what happened? So again, that cortisol, if we don't go to sleep by a certain time, say by 11, then you'll hear people like, oh, well, now all of a sudden I was up and I was doing so much. But we don't want to be running around your house doing tasks during that 11 to 2. That's when your body really needs that rest and that sleep.
Right. And that, to recover, right?
Yeah.
Sleep is such a big part of helping our body and brain.
Yes, exactly.
Recover. It's like the body, it's like a housekeeper. I feel like sleep is a housekeeper for your body. It's sleep. It doesn't go in and it's just kind of sloughing off all of the things that we have done in our body today, the stressors, whatever, the muscle tension. The body sleep goes to work on clearing the brain of the cobwebs, and actually has been linked to helping other mental brain diseases, similar to Alzheimer's and dementia. They've seen connections with that. So I think sleep is incredibly important, and sleep hygiene is like a practice, and sometimes I'm good at it and sometimes I'm not. Right. But I'm kind to myself and understanding that's an area that I need to work on, but it is an area I need to work on. Right. And so those are some really great tips, great tips for sleep, for sure. I wanted to take a minute before we run out of time to talk about sugar. And because it's a hot topic these days, whether sugar's good for you or not good for you. And you had shared with me something called natural energy. So can you explain what that is? Natural energy versus like fake energy, or?
Yeah, definitely. So we, even like when we, say drink coffee, right? It's like, where does that energy come from? It comes from ourselves. It's just, right, doing some things inside, it gives us that energy. So when we take care of our bodies, right, we get good sleep, we put good food or fuel in there, we are naturally going to feel more energized. And it also has to do with like our bodies and our state. So if we're on the couch, let's say, or binge watching Netflix, and then our brain's like, oh, I'm feeling tired, so I'm going to watch some more. And then we start to feel more tired. So then we stay on the couch and we watch another episode, right? So, or we, like you mentioned before, nope, get up, it's time to get up. And if you notice, when you start to move around, you start to feel this energy. So you'll hear people, say like that 3 o'clock time, oh, I need to get some coffee, right? That's not natural energy. But if you go, let's say, on a walk, even though you may not feel it, this is that part where you just say like, nope, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this, right? And I know there's Mel Robbins. She does that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, right? At 1, you're putting on your shoes and you're getting outside. And if you notice, you'll get up and you'll start to move around. And next, you come back from that walk, you're like, wow, I feel really energized.
Right.
And so that came from you. That was a natural type of energy. Another thing too is drinking water. So I make sure to mention that oftentimes people are dehydrated. And so just drink a glass of water and notice, does your energy naturally go up? So it could be, a hydration thing too, or put on some fun music. We notice like, if, you're watching other people dance around and it's fun music. It's like, where did that energy come from? Right? You created that energy because you were having fun and your environment was enjoyable and you were around like other people who are dancing. So if it's just like you're creating that energy within yourself.
Yes. And so like things that we get energy from, like coffee or those energy drinks or something like that, those are processed energy. They're packaged and they have a very, very short duration and they have a pretty bad impact on our overall health. It kind of tricks the brain into believing that certain things are happening naturally that aren't. Is that right? Am I saying that right? Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
And so we want to avoid that as much as possible. So I bring up natural energy with sugar because a lot of times sugar plays a part in how our body processes energy or how we perceive ourselves to be either tired. Oh, I need a little bit of Coke to feel, some sort of sugar, whether it's chocolate or whatever. So how can we move from being like that sugar burner, using sugar for energy, to a fat burner? And what's the difference?
Yeah. So, great question. And I love that you're talking about this because I used to be a sugar burner And you'll know when you're a sugar burner is if you can only go about 2 or 3 hours and then you have to eat. You start to feel hangry. So hangry is not a natural thing, right? That's something that has developed over the way that we eat, where we have food available 24/7 everywhere around us. So when you're eating foods that really spike that blood sugar, right, spike that insulin, so often those processed carbohydrates, right, that can, then your body produces that insulin to process all of that. And then you start to feel that energy, but then it goes to that very quickly, calling glucose in your body, and it burns it up. So you think about kindling on a fire, right? You put that on, you've got some energy, and then it burns out, right? So when you continuous that throughout the day, it causes these ups and downs, both in your mood, your energy, and then, like I said, and then your fuel. You might be, if you eat too much of that, those processed carbs or some of those other sugary foods that, like I said before, are in so much of our food these days, then your body can't handle so much insulin. And so it stores it away for later. And so it's storing it and storing it and storing it. And so our bodies weren't meant to hold on to all that, right? That was in the times of when we went through feast or famine. And so our body thought, wow, okay, sugar. And it's so addictive because you think if our bodies found something and they didn't know if it was going to go through a famine and it was sweet, it was often something that was safe to eat. And so our bodies would eat, a lot of it. And would eat it. And so, and it's like, okay, but you think about, we only had little bits. So if you were to pick berries, for instance, there's thorns. You have to, all the work it takes to pick like a bunch of berries, right? Or to get a pineapple off a tree. Those are natural. So that's kind of different. But and you think, but then when you look at versus a fat burner, so what that is that's using your own stored fat for fuel, just the way that our ancestors did. So looking at taking away, those processed foods and adding in those healthy foods. So like grass-fed meats, things like healthier fats with the avocados, the olive oil, the fish, even like the fat on meat. So especially if it's grass-fed, that fat's okay versus, anyway, that's a whole nother topic, but the corn-fed meat. And what happens is when you eat those healthy foods and your blood sugar can become stable. So you think about like a big thick log that you put on a fire, it can burn for a really long time. And so that you're a fat burner when you don't have sugary cravings. You're not trying to reach for a Snickers bar or a Coke or a coffee. And you think, wow, like it's been a while actually since I ate. And the great thing about this is that then you become in control of when and what you eat instead of your food controlling you. And what that is it's your gut bacteria. So that sugar feeds that gut bacteria. And in order for it to survive, it has to be fed. So that's where those cravings come from, where like, oh my gosh, I just feel like I've got to eat something sweet. I've got to eat the jelly beans, or I've got to eat the chocolate, or I've got to eat something, because it's just those sugar bugs that want to be fed. So when you go through enough time where you're not feeding those, then those will die out and you'll have that good bacteria in your gut. And then your body knows, okay, if I didn't find some food right now, I've got plenty of storage. And every human has a large amount of fat storage. We have way more of that than we do glucose. So, then you can go, say you don't eat breakfast and you realize, oh, lunchtime, I'm feeling hunger. It also teaches us to really listen to our bodies, and are we truly hungry, or are we just craving something, or is it a habit that I eat right now, or am I thirsty? And then, and then we can listen to those natural cravings in our body. Like maybe you are someone who lifts a lot of weight and you feel like, okay, I do need some glucose, right? I want to have some berries or some fruit along with my meat, because like my body really needs that right now. So you can kind of be more in tune with your body, what it needs, versus, like I said, just like, eating a bagel in the morning. And often the way that we start our day is it tells our body what kind of burner we're going to be. So if you have a bagel in the morning, it says, oh, okay, I'm a sugar burner. That's my fuel for today. So all day long. And if you notice, let's say a bagel and orange juice, right? That's like the epitome. It's like all day long. God, I'm just feeling so hungry. I feel so hungry. Like I can't, eat enough today. Versus like you wait for a while, you feel a little bit of hunger, have some water, wait for a little while. It's like, okay, no, now I'm really hungry. Let's say you have some eggs and bacon, and then you eat that and you're like, gosh, oh my gosh, it's already been 1 o'clock. I haven't even, and now I'm really hungry again. And then let's say you have, some healthy meat and some veggies or like a salad. And then then it's like, okay, now I'm ready for dinner.
Right.
So that's kind of where you notice, like I said, and your mood too is really, a lot better. So you feel better, your mood's better, and you can be in control when you eat.
I feel like we could have a whole podcast talking about this,
Yeah.
because I feel like there's so much to cover with that. And it's so important to be attentive to what our body is asking us, but we have to get through the part of kind of being self-disciplined. Truly, that's bottom line where it comes from, right? Is just to say, okay, I'm going to make these small little changes, and then you will begin to, like, I lift weights. I've been lifting a lot more weights. And so I'm like, there are times when my body's like, literally, like, I need sugar, like, because it's like, I need it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And so it's like, I'll give myself like a really nice piece of dark chocolate, right? So it's a dark chocolate with pistachio in it. So it's like, it's got nuts in it, and it's a dark chocolate, which means it's going to be a little bit more nutrient dense than, let's say, a Snickers bar, right?
Yeah.
And it satisfies me. It satisfies me. It's like, oh, there it is. I feel good. That was nice. And then I can move on, right?
Yeah.
But there are days I can tell when I'm an emotional eater. And so I will just eat stuff because I want that sweetness in my mouth, right? Not necessarily how it feels in my body, but in my mouth. Okay. So one last thing, and then we got to wrap it up, because I feel like we could just keep talking, right? Right. So movement. So, we've talked about movement already. So what are your suggestions on really incorporating daily movement? And what, if you could give one exercise, one thing, one type of movement that is best for just kind of overall improved health, what would that be?
Yeah, I would say one is you can habit stack it. So what that means, that's from James Clear, but something that you're used to doing is something like another habit. So let's say every morning you wake up and you have a cup of coffee and you're waiting for your coffee to warm up. Drop down on the ground and do push-ups. Do as many as you can until you can't anymore. You're already waiting for it, and then pop back up. And then let's say your next habit is, and hopefully you'll go to do your morning routine, right?
Right.
Or, let's say you start doing something else, you go and feed the pets. So you've already built that in between two habits that you already do. And then just keep doing that every day. Let's say that, every day at lunch, you have lunch at 12 o'clock. So let's say before you eat, because you're going to eat at 12 o'clock every day, you stop and you do a bunch of squats, right? So you're just squat as much as you can, and building on like those major muscles that we have. And then you go ahead and eat your lunch. Look for opportunities to walk or exercise. And mindset is a big piece too. So, I've heard a lot of my clients like, but I hate exercise, but I don't have time to exercise. But, and so watch those limiting beliefs that start to sink in, and think, well, if your microwave is going, you've got a minute and a half. What are you doing in a minute and a half? Could you really just do some squats or some push-ups, or, something like that while your microwave is warming up?
Right.
Another great exercise is to do sprints. So our bodies were meant to sprint, right? So we just quick burst of energy. So let's say in that morning, you go outside and you just run as fast as you can for 7 to 10 seconds. You catch your breath, come back, run 10 or, however long back, and then you stop. You're like, okay, I did that twice. I'm going to do one more, and then back. And that actually can help your body more than if you were to go out for like an hour run.
Absolutely. And ladies, let me tell you, when you're in menopause, that is the number one suggestion from a lady named Dr. Stacy Sims. She has researched menopause, and one of the things that they have connected is doing what's called HIIT intervals or sit intervals. So what you're describing as sprinting is like an interval. So, and it doesn't have to be long, y'all. It's like a 15-20 minute workout at the most, and you're just doing those sprints. And so it doesn't have to be the hour run. But then I always challenge people with movement is I'll have them journal. Okay, write down how you feel before you exercise. And then when you come back from 5 minutes of doing whatever, how do you feel? And every time they're like, I feel better, right?
I love that.
Why? You know why? Guys, our body is designed to help us feel good when we move our body. It literally it will do it for you. You don't even have to do anything. And, I think after those 3 sprints or what have you, I would say, okay, check in with your body. How do you feel? Does it feel good? And I guarantee you, you're going to be like, oh, this wasn't so bad. Yeah, I'm sweaty. I'm God. It was tiring, but I feel good. I feel better than I started. So recognizing here's the beginning, here's the after, there's your evidence. Your evidence is movement helps me what? Feel good, right?
Yes. And I love that you write it down because it's going to cement in your brain.
That's
and
right.
Then the next time that your brain starts to put up resistance in your own words, in your own handwriting, it says, when I exercise, I feel good.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. And writing, you guys, the writing prompts that I put out there are designed for you to write with your pens. It makes a difference when you write it on paper with a pen or a pencil. Okay. I'll stop. I'll get off my soapbox about my writing. Okay. So we have so much more to cover, but we need to wrap it up. So let's go ahead and share a little bit about your sleep challenge that you have starting on August 1st. And then we'll wrap up with some fun questions.
Okay, great. So it's August 1st through the 5th. Your listeners can reach out to me either like an Instagram at Healthier Living 180, and they can direct message me, or Facebook at Healthier Living 180. And they can reach out to me and I'll add you to our Facebook group. And what it is each day we're going to look at a sleep challenge and just building on those habits. So the Facebook group is to have other people to help support you. If that's your thing, if not, send out an email as well, and you can read the email, just say how it's going. And so that way it just helps it bring out to that little small chunks about things that you can do. And so then the goal is that by the end of 5 days, you're going to realize like you're going to sleep better, sleep deeper, and feel good.
Oh, I love it. I'm signing up for the sleep challenge.
Yay.
I mean, that's how we get better, y'all. These challenges are there to challenge us, because they will, but they're small little things, small little tweaks. You don't have to change everything at once. Small little tweaks. And then you get the evidence. And when you have the evidence, you can tell your brain, no, that's not true. Because the evidence was this. The evidence was I felt better, right?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so let's do some fun questions. So Erica, what is on your nightstand?
Well, I love nonfiction books, so it's actually a challenge for me to read the fiction books. But I'm rereading Sleep Smarter. So it's by Sean Stevenson. So if sleep is something you really are interested in learning more, he has an incredible story about what he overcame.
Awesome.
And has done a lot of research. So
okay, we'll put that in the sleep notes. Sleep notes. See, y'all. Okay.
That's it. Yeah.
The show notes after I sleep. And so if you can send me that information. His last name's Stevenson. Okay. Yeah, we'll make sure we put that in the show notes, guys.
Okay. Another great one is I've been listening to Jenna Kutcher's book, How Are You Really? And that one's really cool. So she goes through a chapter and then gives a journal prompt to do in pen, and really connecting. And like when you mentioned about how do you feel in your body with certain things, she touches on that. And I think especially like for women, it just, I don't know, there's so many about pursuing your dreams and your goals. So I've been really enjoying that one. The Atomic Habits by James Clear.
So I have that book.
Yes, right. That's another good one.
That's awesome. Yeah, make sure you send the link for the info for the second one, Kucher. That way I make sure I put it in the show notes. And also I am a avid reader. So I'm obsessed. I'm addicted to books, y'all. So
I get it. I know so many of my
more books. No more books, Heather. No more books until you read the 5 beside the bed.
I have to say that too. Like my Audible's like, you have 3 more credits. I'm like, hold on. I need to finish the ones I already have. I'm like,
that's right. I used to do Audible and I had to quit for that reason, because I wasn't integrating anything. I was like digesting all of this, but none of it was integrated because I was just eating it. So it takes time to integrate this stuff, guys. So read one book at a time. And I have to remind myself of that too. All right. So here's a different one. So life showed up at your front door with a challenging delivery that you couldn't refuse. and you feel it in your gut, like it's not good, what's the first thing you do?
Oh, I tend to, you said it's like a challenge, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Um,
ouchy, icky, uncomfortable.
yeah, I tend to run. I'm like,
Okay.
I get away from it. I gotta go. I gotta get out of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Probably then talk to lots of people about it. Like,
Okay.
oh my gosh, this came up. I don't know what to do. And kind of feel that, bit of frenzy.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you get yourself through it usually?
Yeah. I noticed when the move is probably back to that flight or fight. But
It
once it
is.
comes back,
Yep.
or if I talk to someone, my husband's a pretty like logical person. So he helps to break it down like, okay, wait a second, like what's going on? Da 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 da.
Right.
Let's break this down into realistic kind of chunks
Yeah.
of things. So
Yeah. Yeah. So it totally makes sense that there are two types of responses, hypervigilance or the
mhm,
opposite, right? And so
mhm,
we can be either over functioning or under functioning. So
mhm,
running away or withdrawing is under functioning. Over
mm.
functioning is a person who's going to be like, I'm going to get in here and fix this problem, and conflict and aggressive and lots of, whereas
Uh-huh.
some people just need to withdraw
Mhm,
and kind of get their deal together, process it, and then come out, but through support and awareness and kind of getting a sense of your emotional health,
mhm.
and recognizing it's normal to feel that way. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
absolutely normal to
yes.
either over function or under function. We all do it.
Yes. I have a funny quick story about that. Like, so my
Sure.
kids would drive me crazy. And so I'd be like, I'm leaving. So I'd run outside the house, like, I should take a walk. And I would always run into a neighbor that's like, oh, hi, how are you? And you're like, hi, I'm really good. Thanks. Okay. Like, why are you walking by right now? I like need a minute to be mad
I
and have
need a
nobody
minute to
see
be.
me right.
That's right.
Nobody see me right now.
That's right. I'm going to be
Yeah.
angry. I want to go throw something. That's why they have pillows. That's why therapists have pillows in their offices, y'all.
Oh, that's why.
That's
That is
their
for back
job.
support.
It's the pillows. No,
it's
it's
pillow.
you got to hit something. I've been
That makes
therapy for
sense.
so many years. Boy, I have worked on some pillows in my life. Okay. What do you do for the fun of it?